So in this video, we shall discuss about the bacterial toxins. So we will restrict our study on the preformed toxins or the exotoxins that are elaborated by the bacteria. So we cannot concentrate on all the bacteria. So we will restrict ourselves to the exotoxins that are elaborated by the bacteria. So you know exotoxins. So the major difference between an exotoxin and an endotoxin is exotoxins are secreted by the bacteria, whereas endotoxin, they will come out into the environment once there is death of the bacterial cell. So the three important bacterial exotoxins are botulinum, tetanus and the diphtheria toxin. So the important exotoxin which affects the animals are the botulinum and the tetanus. So these two exotoxins are preformed toxins we discuss under the bacterial toxins. So the first toxin is the botulinum toxin, are also called as botulinum neurotoxin bond, are also called as botulin toxin, or the condition is also called as botulism. So this botulinum toxin, as you know, it is secreted by the Clostridium botulinum, which is a gram-positive bacteria, spore-forming one, and it is an anaerobic bacteria which loves the anaerobic condition. So the important sources of this botulism are animal getting in contact with the improper stored food or feed. So if they ingest improper stored feed or the food, especially canned meats. See, canned meats are the meat that are stored in a can or in a metal container. So if it is stored for a longer time, if it is not consumed by the human beings, so what they will do? So they will throw it out. So when it opens, if the animals ingest this canned meat, so this canned meat, it will be having an anaerobic condition, more preferable for the growth of Clostridium botulinum. So it will secrete this botulinum toxin during anaerobic condition. So canned meats stored for a longer time, more than the expiry date, so that acts as a major source, and ingestion of this type of improper stored food or feed by the animal will lead to botulism. And the second important source is the decomposing animal tissue. See, more often I used to refer this botulinum toxicity in the Kundapur area. I told you in the Kundapur incident where the botulism has occurred, so where the cattle suffered from botulism due to ingestion of the slaughterhouse waste. See, the poultry slaughterhouse people, what they used to do, they used to dump all their poultry slaughter waste into a particular area. So the cattle went into that area, grazed. So it used to graze in that area. So accidentally it come in contact with this slaughterhouse waste and suffered from botulism. So the very important source for the cattle, the decomposing animal tissue, which includes slaughterhouse waste, then dead rodents. See, dead rodents eaten by the animals lead to this botulism, or dead fishes eaten by the poultry, eaten by the fowls, waterfowls, migratory birds. So which pose an important source for botulism. Then any other dead animals, so they will serve or they will create the anaerobic condition so that the Clostridium botulinum will thrive well and elaborate this toxin, or else the carrions carrying it and admix it with the animal feed. See, for example, rats. See, rats, they will carry the dead carcass. So on their way, on their journey, so accidentally it might leave some part of carcass in the feed intended for the cattle. See, cattle feed is stored somewhere, so it will carry a dead carcass and it put it there, a piece of which, a chunk of which they will put it in the cattle feed and they will run away. The carrions carrying it and admix it with the animal feed. And sometimes maggots which feeds on this dead animal, they also have this toxin. So already they have this preformed toxin, and ingestion of these maggots indirectly will lead to the botulism. So these are some of the important sources. Then decaying plants. See, decaying plants, decaying grasses or spoiled silage, it will also act as a source for the botulism. So you should be careful. See, spoiled silage. See, when the silage gets spoiled, see, silage, the preservation of silage, the basic principle behind the preservation of silage is depends upon the amount of acid that is produced by the soluble sugar that is present in the grass, right? The silage. So if the silage grass has low soluble sugar, what will happen? So lesser production of acid. So pH will be, if pH is more than 4.5, so such silage more often gets spoiled, and ingestion of such spoiled silage, which also creates a anaerobic condition for the growth of Clostridium botulinum, so conducive for the elaboration of this preformed toxin. So ingestion of such spoiled silage might lead to the botulism in the ruminants, very common source also. Then the stagnant water source. See, stagnant water source, preferably which is having more decayed material, decayed organic material, or which is having more dead fishes. So such stagnant water source, it is more dangerous for the waterfalls or any migratory bird. So it will drink this water, or it might eat this decayed material or dead fishes. So where there is already an elaboration of this toxin, so it might lead to toxicity in the falls, waterfalls, migratory birds. And the poultry litter, which is very commonly used as a cattle feed, as a nitrogen source. So such poultry litter also contain the preformed toxin, which leads to the botulism. So this we should also consider in the source for the botulism, the poultry litter as a cattle feed. And this botulinum toxin, it is one of the most potent toxin. So in some literature, they tell botulinum toxin is the most potent toxin, whereas in our book, it is being told it is one of the most potent toxin, one of the most potent neurotoxin that is present. So it is extremely toxic. So extremely toxic is less than 1 milligram per kg body weight, LD50, and it is basically protein in nature. Then the botulinum toxin features. So what are the important features of botulinum toxin? So you know it is elaborated by Clostridium botulinum in a conducive environment, and it is a preformed toxin. Here the toxin is already present. See, here the bacteria will not go inside the animal, so after its death the toxin will not come out. So it's not like that. So already the toxin is present in the feed. So ingestion of the toxin is leading to the toxicity. So it is already elaborated by the Clostridium botulinum, or in other terms it is a preformed toxin. And there are different types of botulinum toxin, starting from type A to type G. See, among which the different types affect different animals. To decrease the confusion, so I have listed only the important ones here. So the type C and type D, it mainly affects the cattle. So among this, type D is more toxic than the type C botulinum toxin. And type C mainly affects the birds. Type E, preferably the fish eating birds, are affected by this type E botulinum toxin. So if you want the other types, so you can refer the textbooks also. So whereas the important ones are these types of botulinum toxin. And as you know, botulinum toxin is a protein, so made up of peptide chain. So likewise it is made up of two polypeptide chain. One is heavy polypeptide chain and another one is low polypeptide chain. So its importance lies in its, so their importance will lead to the mechanism of action of this botulinum toxicity. And you know, when anaerobic condition prevails, bacteria elaborate this toxin. So this is the conducive environment. So whenever there is anaerobic conditions, see, dead and decaying carcass, or canned feeds, spoiled silage. So where the common factor in all those things are the anaerobic condition. Whenever there is anaerobic condition, or even the necrosis of tissues, living tissues, so their anaerobic condition prevails. So at that time, bacteria will elaborate this toxin or secrete this toxin. So same thing is told here. If Clostridium botulinum grows in the necrotic tissue of the living animal or colonizes GIT heavily, so that will produce the toxin, that will secrete the toxin, whereas that condition we call it as toxico-infectious botulism or visceral botulism. So this portion we will not deal in this section. So it has been already covered under your microbiology section. So we cover only botulism due to ingestion of preformed toxin. See, we don't deal with the bacteria colonizing the living animal, then secreting the toxin. No, we are not dealing with this. So we deal with the preformed toxin already consumed by the animal and the toxicity due to that. Then soil which is deficient in the phosphorus, so increased chances of botulism. See, for example, cattle, if there is deficient in the phosphorus, they will suffer from the pica, hypophosphatemia. So more chances that there will be a creation of a vice. So what is that vice? It frequently licks the bone, the animal's bone, the dead animal's bone. So while doing that, while chewing the dead animal bone, so more chances of eating the dead flesh also. So while eating dead flesh accidentally, so it might lead to the botulism. So animal suffering from pica, hypophosphatemia, or soil which are deficient in phosphorus, in that area, more chances of botulism. And susceptibility wise, waterfowls, they are more susceptible than the migratory birds or any poultry, which are more than the cattle, than the horses. See, frequent occurrence, we generally see it in cattle also. And this botulinum toxin, they can be inactivated by the heat and chemical. Which chemical inactivates the botulinum toxin? Generally formalin they use. So the resultant product, we call it as toxide. So toxide is any toxin that retains, what it retains? It retains the antigenic specificity, but it has lost the virulence. So lost its virulence, retains the antigenic specificity. So can be used as a passive immunity. So you inject the toxide, antigenic specificity will be there, immune system will be activated, then there will be memory. So the memory, once the memory is activated, so it will be ready for the further counter attack. If the infection further occurs, so it will be ready with its memory B cells, right? Or we can use the antitoxin. Antitoxin is different from toxide. So it is been asked in the assignment question. So you answer that. So you answer what is the major difference between a toxide and an antitoxin. And the mechanism of action. So what is the mechanism of action of this botulism? So botulinum, as you know, it is a neurotoxin and it contains two polypeptide chain. One is a heavy chain, another one is a light chain or low polypeptide chain. So this heavy chain, it helps in the attachment of botulinum toxin to the cholinergic axon terminal. So once it attaches to the cholinergic axon terminal, it will be taken inside by receptor mediated endocytosis. See, if this is the cholinergic axon terminal, so there is a receptor to which the toxin will bind to. So it will undergo endocytosis. So there will be endocytic vesicle formation. So in that endocytic vesicle, inside that the botulinum toxin will be there. So into the endocytic vesicle, the toxin will go. Heavy chain, it will remain here itself. Right, light chain enters the endocytic vesicle. Light chain is having protease activity, so cleaves the endocytic vesicle. It will come into the cytoplasm. So once it comes into the cytoplasm, I told it is having a protease activity. So proteolytically, it will degrade the specific docking complex protein. So which are those docking complex protein? Synaptobrevin, syntaxin and SNAP. See, what is the function of this docking complex protein? See, while release of any neurotransmitter, so what is the basic thing? See, calcium has to come in. So once the calcium comes in, once there is influx of calcium, so this synaptic vesicle, it will bind with the presynaptic membrane, right? So it will bind with the presynaptic membrane. Then there is a formation of docking complex. So once there is formation of docking complex, it will lyse this membrane so that the neurotransmitter from the synaptic vesicle will be released out by the mechanism of exocytosis, right? From exocytosis, the neurotransmitter. So the neurotransmitter, what you are dealing here is acetylcholine will be released into the synapse. That is the mechanism of release of a neurotransmitter. See here, our botulinum toxin, it is degrading the proteins that is involved in the formation of docking complex. Once the formation of docking complex mechanism itself is hindered, so there is no binding of synaptic vesicle with the membrane, so no docking, so there will be no exocytosis of the neurotransmitter. So it will inhibit the release of the neurotransmitter. Which neurotransmitter here? The neurotransmitter here what you are dealing it with is the acetylcholine. So there will be no exocytosis of acetylcholine. And all this process, it mainly happens at the neuromuscular junction. So there is no release of acetylcholine. So no acetylcholine is binding with what type of receptor? NM receptor. So what type of paralysis will ensue? So the type of paralysis that is ensued in the botulism is flaccid type of paralysis. See, no acetylcholine is binding with NM receptor to activate the muscle, right? So flaccid paralysis. So what are the clinical signs? See, clinical signs, more often you will also see peracute type of clinical sign. Peracute signs, so the animals will be dead without showing any signs. So in Kundapur incident, so there was some peracute cases also. So there was mortality of the cattle without showing any clinical sign. And subacute or acute forms are more common. So in cattle, so what are the clinical signs? So initially it affects the hind limbs. So there will be weakness in the hind limb. As a result, there will be disinclination to rise. Then there will be lateral recumbency and sternal recumbency. So why all this generalized weakness? So it is mainly due to the flaccid paralysis. See, the muscle by voluntarily doesn't have any tonicity because acetylcholine is not binding with the NM receptor. So it is not giving tonicity to the muscle. So there will be generalized weakness. So it affects the hind limb, disinclination to rise, lateral recumbency, sternal recumbency, very common feature in case of cattle. Then decreased ruminal and GIT motility, so suffers from colic and the constipation. Then decreased urinary bladder motility, as a result there will be retention of the urine. Then progressive paralysis of muscles of jaw and throat, so mastication process will be hindered. So as a result there will be dysphagia, so animal is reluctant to eat. So suffers from anorexia, dysphagia will be there, or cud dropping will be there. Then at terminal stages or pre-terminal stages, so you will see tongue hanging out of the mouth because the control in the tongue, the control will be lost. So there will be tongue hanging out from the mouth during pre-terminal or the terminal stages. So apart from that, you can appreciate the prolapse of third eyelid, disturbed vision and the mydriasis. So these are some of the classical features in case of botulism toxicity. And in birds or in waterfalls or in migratory bird, there will be drooping wings. See, there are many cases of the migratory bird's death due to botulism toxicity. If you Google, see the crow's death or many birds' death were encountered due to this botulism toxicity. So the case report of bird's death due to botulism. So you will see a number of case reports. So drooping wings. So because of the muscle weakness, there will be drooping wings. The birds unable to fly. So reluctant to walk also due to weakness in the legs. So reluctant to walk also. So you should differentiate this clinical signs with the molting condition that happens in the birds. See, once in a year or several times in a year, so there is a molting phenomenon that generally happens in the birds where the old feathers will be shed and the new feathers will be formed. So that phenomena we call it as molting. So at that time also birds will show similar signs. So drooping wings will be there, unable to fly, reluctant to walk. But the catching process, so if you want to catch the molting birds, so it's not easy. So it will try to escape. Whereas the birds that are suffering from botulism, so you can easily catch hold of that bird. So that's the major difference. So you should differentiate it from the botulism and the molting phenomenon in the birds. Then apart from that, the classical clinical sign is limber neck. It cannot keep erect neck. So neck will also always be drooping, or there will be extension of head and neck. So that condition we call it as limber neck, classical sign in case of botulism. See, apart from that, which affects the cattle and poultry and birds, so there is a Shaker-Fowle syndrome. Again, the microbiology aspect. So you read it under microbiology. Then post-mortem finding, non-specific, retention of hard mucus feces because of decreased ruminal and GIT motility, decreased UB motility, urinary bladder motility. It will be filled with urine. There will be retention of the urine. Then diagnosis. Diagnosis through the history. So what is the history? So in Kundapur incident, so what is the history that you are going to collect? See, I used to leave the cattle in that particular area for grazing. So when you go and check that area, so it will be filled with the poultry carcass waste. So that will become your history. Then outbreak, ask for an outbreak. See whether one cattle is affected or number of cattle is affected. So what will be the outbreak? So whether the outbreak will be there? Yes, outbreak will be there in case of botulism toxicity in contrast with tetanus. See tetanus, commonly it affects individual animal, whereas here there is an outbreak. See outbreak of bird's death, outbreak of botulism in cattle. So they will tell outbreak of the botulism. They don't tell a single case of botulism, very rarely. So very rarely if a particular animal is grazed in that area, then there will be individual case, or else the outbreak will be there. Then classical clinical signs will be there, that is already discussed. Then circumstantial evidence, it's a very important thing. In Kundapur incident, only after circumstantial evidence, only the doctor went around that particular area, only when they appreciated the presence of the poultry carcass waste, they could zero in on this botulism toxicity. Then demonstration of the toxin or bacteria or spore in the suspected sample. So it will become a very important part. So you froze that suspected sample, you send it to the laboratory. Or demonstration of bacteria or spore. So whenever there is toxico-infectious botulism, you can culture it also. So in cook media, in meat media, I think, Robertson cook media. So we have to demonstrate the bacteria or spores after culturing. So the samples are liver, serum, ingest or ruminal content or GIT content you can take. But the important test what they perform to diagnose this botulism is mouse inoculation test. It is a gold standard test. So what they will do, so they will inject the sample to the mice intraperitoneally, and they will check for the wasp wasted appearance. So there will be appearance of wasp waste, and there will be paralysis. So there will be appearance of flaccid paralysis in case of mice. And if there is death of mice in less than 24 hours, it will confirm the botulism toxicity. So mouse inoculation test generally they will treat as the gold standard for diagnosis of the botulism. Then the differential diagnosis. So differential diagnosis, the assignment questions will be there for differential diagnosis. What are the differential diagnosis for botulism toxicity? Then treatment, you can go for polyvalent antitoxin if available. Then antibacterial drugs, so preferably penicillin because gram positive. You know the dosage of penicillin covered in chemotherapy. What is the dosage of penicillin for the botulinum toxicity or for tetanus? The similar, the penicillin dosage. Then symptomatic treatment. Then generally the euthanasia is recommended for the cattle that are affected. So if it is having lesser clinical signs, you can treat it, or else euthanasia. So that will rule out. So very rare cases, so we will generally prescribe it for euthanasia. Then there are some important things. See, handling affected cattle. If a person handles the affected cattle, whether he suffer from the botulism, no. So only handling, so he will not get affected. Eating affected animal meat or drinking cow milk, whether it will lead to botulinum toxicity, more chances. So increased chances of the botulinum toxicity. Okay, so this is about botulinum toxicity. So in the next video, we will take up tetanus toxicity. So assignment questions. See, the assignment questions for botulinum toxicity are: botulism is more common after ingestion of dead carcass. Justify. In 2 or 3 sentences, you justified. See, dog and eagles are carrions like that. They are major scavengers of dead carcass, right? So even though they are scavengers of dead carcass, seldom there is reporting of dog's death and eagle death due to botulism. So why it is so? The susceptibility of dog and eagle, so even though they eat this dead carcass, so which are having this botulinum toxicity, the susceptibility is very less. Justify. Okay. Then cattle suffering from pica more susceptible for botulism. So justify. Then is there a difference between a toxide and antitoxin? If there is difference, you write. Or you can put it like this also, the question: difference between an anatoxin and antitoxin. Toxide is also called as anatoxin and antitoxin. So the major source of botulism in case of cattle is dash. Then which species are highly susceptible for botulism? And which type of botulinum toxin affects the cattle most? Then botulinum toxin is highly toxic. True or false? Then another one, dash type of paralysis is seen in case of botulism. So these are some of the assignment questions. Okay, thank you.